So today, we're going to dive into one of the most profound and, let's be honest, kind of challenging ideas in all of philosophy: the nature of who or what we really are. It's a concept from Buddhist teachings that, if you can really get your head around it, it has the power to change, well, pretty much everything. But let's start with something a bit more universal. I mean, think about it. If you could only hold on to one single truth as you face the end of your life, what would be the most valuable piece of knowledge to have with you in that moment? Well, according to the teachings we're exploring, the answer is all wrapped up in what's called the Four Noble Truths. And for our purposes, we're going to zoom in on the very first one: the reality of suffering, and maybe more importantly, what actually causes it. And here's the kicker. The source of that deep, nagging unease we all feel from time to time, it comes from a massive misunderstanding. We spend our lives desperately clinging to this idea of a permanent, solid me, when in reality, this thing we call a self is just a temporary collection of different parts. So, what are these parts? What is this assembly? Well, this teaching breaks down our entire experience of being a self into five distinct categories. They're often called the five aggregates. So, let's take a look at what makes up you. All right, first up, you've got form. That's easy. It's your physical body. Then there's feeling, the raw sensations of pleasure, pain, or just neutral. Third is perception. That's your mind recognizing stuff, like, oh, that's a tree, based on memory. Fourth, we have formations. This is a big one. It's all your thoughts, your habits, your future plans. And finally, number five, consciousness, which is simply the awareness that experiences all the other four. See, we take this bundle of constantly changing processes and we just slap a label on it: me. But here's where it gets really interesting. That fifth part, consciousness, that's the one we get the most wrong. It's the piece we're absolutely convinced is some kind of permanent, unchanging soul. And that leads us right into this super common idea, one that's been around forever: the belief that our consciousness is basically a soul that travels from one life to the next. The original teaching doesn't pull any punches here. It hits you with this really startling analogy. It says that believing your consciousness travels from body to body is just as absurd as saying that a gust of wind or the fire from a campfire literally picks up and travels to a new spot to be reborn. So let's just lay it out crystal clear. The common belief, it's that some personal essence, the core you, journeys on after you die. But what's being taught here is totally different. It says consciousness is just an impersonal, natural element, like earth or wind or fire. It doesn't go anywhere. It just comes into being, and then it passes away. Right there, in the same spot. It doesn't pack its bags and move to a new town. It appears, and then it disappears. That's it. I know. That can be a really tough concept to wrap your mind around. So let's use a beautiful metaphor that makes it so much easier to visualize. Okay, I want you to just picture a simple lamp. And think of consciousness not as the lamp itself, but as the light that shines from it. When you flick that lamp on, the light just appears right there, filling the space. And when you switch it off, what happens? The light doesn't fly across the room. It just vanishes in the exact same spot where it appeared. I mean, really think about that. Does the quality of lightness itself peel off the wall and float through the air, just waiting to land on another lamp when it turns on? Of course not. The idea is completely ridiculous. A new light just appears from the new lamp. And that right there is a perfect illustration of consciousness. It arises because the conditions are right, and when the conditions end, it just ceases, right there. It doesn't travel. Okay, but so what? Why is this so important? This isn't just some abstract philosophy. Getting this has huge real-world consequences for our happiness, for our freedom. In fact, the original texts have a really strong term for someone who insists on believing in a traveling soul: Moga Purisa. It literally translates to the hollow person or the empty person, someone who is empty of truth because they're clinging so hard to this delusion. You see, this false belief in a permanent me, a me that has to be protected and promoted and satisfied at all costs, that is the very root of what's called upadana, or clinging. It's that desperate grasping that causes all of our anxiety and fear and dissatisfaction in life. But what if you could see, even for a split second, that there is no solid, continuous self there in the first place? Then, what is there to protect? Who is there to be so greedy for? The entire foundation of our suffering, which is built on that one false idea, just starts to crumble. And that really just leaves us with one final big question to sit with. If the awareness you're experiencing right now isn't some permanent thing traveling through time, but is more like that light from the lamp, just appearing and disappearing from moment to moment, then what exactly are you holding on to so tightly?